Diversity in the world. If we look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insect, birds, your pet, or other animals, plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eyes, but are also but they are all around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observation in, the range and the variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number kinds of living organism in it. Each different kinds of plant, animal, organism that you see represents a species. The number of species are now describe a range between 1.7 to 1.9 millions. This refers a biodiversity, or the numbers and types of organisms present on Earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, that there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. These local names would vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find in any ways means to talk to each other to refer to organism we are talking about. Hence, there is a need to standardize the naming of the living organism such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called the nomenclature. Process is called the nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming in is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is identification, and that is known as identification. Next, in order to facilitate the story, number of scientists have established procedure to assign a scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable in biology. Biologists all over the world for plants and plant scientific name are based on agreed principle criteria, which are provided in International Code of Botanical Nomenclature (ICBN). International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. You may ask, how are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. The scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the peoples has only one name. Description of any organism should be enable the peoples in any parts of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organism. Biologists follow universal accepted principle to provide scientific name to known organism. Each name has two components. The generic name, the specific epithet. First one is generic name and second one is specific epithet. This system of providing a name with names with two components is called binomial nomenclature. That is known as binomial nomenclature. This naming system given by Carlos Linnaeus, this was given by Carlos Linnaeus, is being practiced by the biologists all over the world. This naming system using two words format was found convenient. Let us take the example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific name better. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. That is Mangifera indica here. The scientific name of the mangoes is Mangifera indica. Let's see how it is binomial names In this name, Mangifera represents the genus. Mangifera represents the genus. The genus, while Indica is a particular species, Indica represents a particular species or a specific epithet, or that is also known as a specific epithet. Other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. Biological names are generally in Latin and Latin in italics. They are Latinized to derived from the Latin irrespective of their origin. The first word in a biological name represents the genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. First one is genus name, second one is specific epithet. Both the word in a biological name denotes the genus start with a capital letter, while the specific epithet start with the small letters. It can be illustrated with the example. After the specific epithets at the end of the biological names is written as the abbreviated forms. The Mangifera indica lineus, indicates that this species was first described by the Linnaeus. Since it is nearly possible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to describe some means to make this possible. This process is classification. This is known as classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we easily recognize a group such as plants or animals, or dogs, cats, or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs, not cats. Now, if we were to think of Alsatians, we know that we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think thinks of animals with external ears and bodies hair. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk wheat, the pictures in each of our minds will be a wheat plants, not a rice or any other plants. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc. are convenient categories we use to study organism. The scientific terms for these categories is taxa. That is known as taxa. The scientific term of this categories is taxa. Here we must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at very different levels. Plants also form a taxa. Wheat is also a taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa. But you know that dogs is a mammals and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals, and dogs represent taxa different levels. Hence, based on the characteristic, all living organisms can be classified in different taxa. The process of the classification is called taxonomy. That is known as taxonomy. External or internal structure along with the structure of cells, development, process, ecological information, organisms are essential to form a basis modern taxonomic studies. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, nomenclature are the processes that are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needs to find source to their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification were based on the use of various organisms. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversity, but also relationship among them. This branch study was referred to as systematics. The word systematic is derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of publication. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationships between organisms. Taxonomic categories. Next, we will study taxonomic categories. Taxonomic categories. Classification is not a single-step process, but involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or categories. Since the categories is a parts overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called the taxonomic category. That is known as taxonomic categories. All categories together constitute taxonomic hierarchy. All categories together constitute taxonomic hierarchy. Each category is referred to as a unit of classification. In fact, represent a rank and is commonly termed as taxon. That is known as taxon. Next, taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Insect represent a group of organisms sharing common features like trees, 3 pairs of joint legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete object which can be classified, and those were given a rank or categories. Can you name other such groups of organisms? Remember, groups represent categories. Category further denotes rank. Each ranks or taxon in fact represent a unit of classification. These taxonomic groups categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. Taxonomic studies of all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum, division, class, order, family, genus, species. All organisms, including those in the plants and animals kingdom, have species or as the lowest categories. Now the question you may ask is how to place an organism in various categories. The basic requirement is the knowledge of characterization of the individual or group of organisms. This helps in identification dissimilarities among the individuals of the same kind of organism as well as their kinds of organism. Then 1.3.1 species. Taxonomic studies consider a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as a species. That is known as species. One should be able to distinguish one species from the other clause related to the species based on the distinct morphological difference. Let us consider Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum potato, and Panthera leo lion. All three names indica, tuberosum, leo represent the specific epithet, while the first word Mangifera, Solanum, Panthera are genera and represent another higher level of taxon or categories. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithet representing different organisms but having morphological similarities. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet called tigris. Solanum includes species like nigrum and melangena. Human beings belongs to species sapiens, which is grouped in the genus Homo. The scientific name those for human beings is written as Homo sapiens. That is Homo sapiens. Then genus. What is genus? We will study in 1.3.2 genus. Here genus. Genus comprises a group of related species. Has more characters in common in comparison to species of other genera. We can say that genera are aggregates of closely related species. For example, potato and brinjal are two different species, but both belongs to this genus Solanum. Lion, Panthera leo, leopard, Panthera pardus, tiger, Panthera tigris, with several common features. All species of the genus Panthera. This genus differ from another genus, from Felis, which includes cats family. The next category is family. The next category family has group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to the genus and species. Families are categories on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features of plants species. Among plants, for example, 3 different genera Solanum, Petunia, Dadura are placed in family Solanaceae. Among animals, for example, genus Panthera comprising lion, tiger, leopard is put along with genus Felis in the family Phallidae. Similarly, if you observe the features of cats and dogs, you will find some similarities and some difference as well. They are separated into different families, Felida and Canidia, respectively. Orders. The next orders. You have seen earlier that categories like species, genus, and families are based on numbers of similar characters. Generally, orders and other higher taxonomy categories are identified based on the aggregates of characters. Order being a higher categories in the assemble of families which exhibit a few similar characters. These similar characters are less in the number as compared to the different genera included in family. Plants families like Convolvulacea, Solanaceae are included in order. Polynomials animals based on the floral characters. The animals order Carnivora includes families like Felidea and Canidia. Class. These categories includes related orders. For example, order Primata comprising monkey, gorilla, gibbon is placed in class Mammalia along with the order Carnivora that includes animals like tigers, cat, dogs. Class Mammalia has other orders also. Phylum. Classes comprising animals like fish, amphibia, reptilia, birds along with mammals constitute the next higher categories called phylum. All this based on the common features like presence of notochord and dorsal halo neural system are included in phylum Chordata. In case of plants, class with a few similar characters are assigned to a higher categories or division. Kingdom. All kingdoms belonging to the various phyla are assigned to the higher categories called kingdom Animalia in the classification system of animals. The kingdom Plantae, on the other hand, is distinct and comprises all the plants from various divisions. Henceforth, we will refer to these two groups of animals and plant kingdom. The taxonomic categories from species to kingdom have been shown in ascending order, starting with the species in figure 1.1. These are broad categories. However, taxonomists have also developed subcategories in this hierarchy to facilitate more sound and scientific placement of various taxa. Look at the hierarchy in figure 1.1. Can you recall the basis of arrangement? Say, for example, as we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characteristics goes on decreasing. Lower taxa more are the characteristics that members within the taxon share. Higher the category, greater is the difficulties of the determining the relationship to other taxa at the same level. Hence the problem of classification becomes more complex. Table 1.1 indicates the taxonomic categories to which some common organisms like housefly, mango and wheat belongs. Organisms with their taxonomic categories. Common name, man, biological name, Homo sapiens, genus, Homo, family, Hominida, order, Primata, class, Mammalia, phylum or division, Chordata. Housefly, Musca domestica, genus Musca, family, Musidia, order, Diptera, class, Insecta, phylum or division, Arthropoda. Mango, Mangifera indica, genus Mangifera, family, Anacardiaceae, order, Sapindales, class, Dictyledons, phylum or division, Angiosperm. Wheat, Triticum destivum, genus Triticum, family, Phoeacia, order, Poales, class, Monocotyledons, phylum or division, Angiosperma. Taxonomical aid. Taxonomical study of various species of plants, animals, other organisms are useful in agriculture, forestry, industry, and in general in knowing our bio-resource and their diversity. These studies would require correct classification and identification of organisms. Identification of organisms requires intensive laboratory and field studies. The collection of actual specimens of plants, animals, species is essential and is the prime source of taxonomic studies. These are also fundamental to studies and essential for training in systematics. It is used for classification of an organism, and the information gathered is also stored along with the specimen. In some cases, the specimen is preserved for further storage. Biologists have established certain procedure and technique to store and preserve the information as well as the specimen. Some of these explained to help you understand the uses of these. As herbarium. Herbarium is the store of house or of collection of plant specimens that are dried, pressed and placed on sheets. Further, these sheets are arranged according to the universal accept system of classification. These specimens, along with their description of herbarium sheets, become storehouse or repository for further use. The herbarium sheets also carry a label providing information about dates and place of collection, English, local botanical names, family, collectors' names, etc. Herbaria are also serve as quick referral system in taxonomic storage. Botanical garden. This special garden have collection of living or plants for reference. Plant species in this garden are grown for identification purpose, and each plant is labeled identifying its botanical scientific names and family. The famous botanical garden are Kew, England, Indian Botanical Garden, Howrah, India, and at National Botanical Research Institute, Lucknow, India. Museum. Biological museums are generally set up in the educational institutes such as school, college. Museum have collection of the preserved plants and animal specimens for study of, and reference. Specimens are preserved in the container or jar in preservative solution. Plants and animal specimens may also be preserved as dry specimens. Insects are preserved in insect box after collecting, killings, and pinning. Large animals like birds, mammals, other usually stupid are preserved. Museum often have collection of skeleton animals too. Zoological park. These are the place where wild animals kept in protected environment under human care, which enable us to learn about their foods, habitat, behavior. All animals in zoo are provided as far as possible the conditions similar to the natural habitats. Children love visiting these parks, commonly called zoos. Keys. Keys the another taxonomical use for identification of the plants, animals based on their similar and dissimilar. The keys are based on the contrasting characters, generally in pairs called couplets. It represents the choice made between two opposite options. This result is acceptance of only one and rejection of the others. Each statement is the keys called lead. Separate taxonomic keys are required for each taxonomic category, such as family, genus, species, for identification purpose. Keys are generally analytical in nature. Flora, manuals, monographs, catalogs are some of the other means of recording description. This also help in the correct identification. Flora contains the actual accounts of habitats and distribution of the plants of the given area. This provides the index to the plants species found in particular areas. Manuals are useful in providing the information for the identification of the names and species found in the area. Monographs contain information of any one of taxon. Summary. The living world is rich in variety. Millions of plants and animals have been identified and described, but a large number of still remain unknown. The very range of organisms is in terms of size, color, habitat, physiological and morphological features make us seek the defining characteristic of living organism. In order to facilitate the study of kinds and diversity of organisms, biologists have evolved certain rules and principles for identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. The branch of knowing dealing with this aspect is referred to as taxonomy. The taxonomy studies of various species of plants and animals useful in agriculture, forestry, industry, and in general knowing our bio resource and their diversity. The basic of taxonomic hierarchy, taxonomy like identification, naming, classification organism are universally evolved under international code. Based on the resemblance and distinct difference, each organism is identified and assigned a correct scientific and biological name comprising two words as per the binomial system of nomenclature. An organism represents or occupies a place of or position in the system of classification. There are many categories ranked and are generally referred to the taxonomic categories or taxa. All the categories constitute a taxonomic hierarchy. Taxonomists have developed a variety of taxonomical aids to facilitate identification, nomenclature, classification of organisms. These studies are carried out for the actual specimen which are collected from the field and preserved as referrals in the forms of herbaria, museums and its botanical garden and zoological park. It requires special technique for collection of the preservation of specimen in herbaria and museum. Live specimen, on the other hand, of plants and animals are found in botanical garden or in zoological parks. Taxonomists also prepare and disseminate information through the manuals and monograph for further taxonomic studies. Taxonomic K are tools that help in identification based on the characteristics.